AITA for forcing my son to do some sort of research on our daughter's condition? English isn't my first language. Sorry in advance for any errors. I, 41F, have 2 kids, 12F, and 15 meters. My daughter has a condition called endometriosis, and for those unaware, it's a condition in which uterus tissue doesn't grow properly, and due to this periods can become much worse. For those aware of the condition, if you are wondering, I have a friend who is a gynecologist who was able to help us. I say this because of how hard this condition is to diagnose normally. My son has never taken it seriously and has said things along the line of, "She needs to suck it up," or "She needs to stop being so obnoxious," in reference to groaning noises. I have told him to stop and threatened punishment, but I let him slide as I attributed it to virtual school stress and, as of late, finals stress, and he has made these comments to me, so it wasn't as big of an issue. At the end of last month their school ended, yet he still made this comment today. So I told him that he needs to research and learn about the condition for this entire week or the next one so that he learns to be more sympathetic. He was upset by this and said that he didn't want to, and I told him that he had to, and he groaned and went to go do it. Yet my husband, 43 meters, said that this was unreasonable, and even if it was a reasonable punishment, forcing him to do research isn't going to help. I told my husband that I wasn't forcing him to be sympathetic, I was forcing him to learn about the pain. We argued for a bit before my husband told me I was too stubborn and walked away. Now I feel that forcing him may have been a bad decision, as it is a bit unreasonable and it won't have much of an effect. So AITA? NTA, I think that's a completely reasonable punishment for this scenario. Making him learn something is not cruel and unusual by any means. Your husband should really be more understanding. Maybe he needs to do some research himself. Then he'd understand how fucked up his son's actions are. NTA. Your son reminds me of people that tell women suffering from pain during their periods to stop being dramatic. Or when someone runs out of pads, and their parents or partner are slow, reluctant to help them get products, say something stupid like, "Hold it in till I bring it home." If your son has ever been ill or injured and cried or made sounds over it, I'm pretty sure nobody in the home ever told him to suck it up. He isn't pain's gatekeeper, and he doesn't get to tell someone how much pain they are allowed to be in. Even if he doesn't gain sympathy from this, he should be made aware that complaining about someone's suffering will not be tolerated under any circumstances. Testing, working, or whatever he thinks is acceptable. NTA. Perhaps your husband should also do some research with your son. Might be good for both of them. Edit. Thank you for the awards. I'm not entirely sure about Redikit and hope this is okay. Wow. This is actually a good approach. But I do hope he learns the scientific reasons. With videos that feature real gynecologists. All available on YouTube. If he can cite the sites, reference books, and give it like a presentation or essay, it would be better. So NTA. You could have shouted or chosen to ignore, but this approach is way better than either of those options. NTA. You're educating your son on a very real, very painful condition. That's really all you can do. I truly hope both your son and husband learn to be more compassionate. You're doing the best you can. I'm glad your daughter has you. NTA. You are entirely reasonable, and this is a great idea. I think he's getting the concept that a woman's pain can be dismissed as it's exaggerated from his father based on dad's reaction. NTA. I saw a video a while ago about a machine that simulated period pains that men could wear. Try so. They would see what it felt like. They were all shocked. And that is multiplied with her condition. Perhaps he can equate it with being kicked in the nuts. Yes. We as women know it hurts, but all that gasping and rolling around on the ground. Shake it off, right? This last part is sarcastic, but it may get through to him. NTA, and I think this is a completely brilliant way to deal with the situation. His future girlfriends and wife may thank you for opening his eyes to the myriad adventures the female reproductive system takes us on. I'd tell your husband the alternative is allowing your daughter to kick him in the nuts every time he tries to minimize her experience, and if he complains, let her tell him how he's clearly being a baby and it can't hurt that much. Before I start, NTA. OMG, so NTA. I have endo and will try to contain my rage at this. I've had 7 surgeries in the last 9 years. It took me 11 years to get diagnosed. I've lost careers, friends, family, and my fertility to the disease. Also, since most treatments are geared towards preserving fertility, because who cares about the actual person? A whole boatload of other issues were simply ignored. I've since had to have a renal autotransplant. March. And am having major vascular surgery next week. Endometriosis is a systemic illness. While seemingly reproductive in nature, it has been found in every organ in the body, and has been known to cause a higher prevalence of certain cancers and other conditions. EDS. Aforementioned vascular issues, urinary and bowel, autoimmune. Bottom line, they should want to understand. If she had cancer, would they tell her to suck it up? Fun fact. There's a movement to have endo classified as a form of cancer. If she had a rare genetic disorder, would they ignore it? Likely no to both. They'd want to be supportive and learn about the disease, its treatments, and how to help her. Only reason this is different is because it involves what is typically seen as a woman's reproductive system, though it can affect cisgender males too. Not to mention our transgender fam. This is misogyny at its peak and more than a bit ableist, doesn't affect them. So why should they care? Both Hubs and Son need a crash course in healthcare equality and overall decency. I wish you luck and your daughter luck. I'm glad she was able to be diagnosed, and hope she gets proper care. I'd like to hope that my generation of endofam has fought hard enough to make her battle a little easier. Yellow heart. Entate's so immature of him to say that to his younger sister. She needs to suck it up. STFU, it's not even an unreasonable punishment, as your husband says. It's just reading up on an issue that affects his own family member. Maybe your husband should read up and learn more about your daughter's condition too. NTA, as someone who used to curl up and cry on the shower floor, it's important for boys to understand what girls and women go through sometimes, especially because of the way he's acting. Education is not punishment or unreasonable. NTA, however, your son and husband are. I have almost perfectly normal period pain, and some days it's so bad I still can't go to school. It's a perfectly reasonable punishment, and if your son doesn't listen, maybe tell him that it can feel like a heart attack. If that doesn't help, there's period pain simulators. Your son needs to learn to be nicer to people around him. Info. What's your husband's attitude, behavior around menstruation? Because I feel like this may be a factor, and something he's passed down to his son. But I don't want to jump the gun, because I have opinions about this. NTA, I don't think this is too far. But I don't think the research is going to help him understand the pain his sister is in. Also, why can't you tell him something like, "Don't talk about your sister like that. She's in severe pain." NTA. Even if it wasn't a punishment, it's the parents' prerogative to educate the kids as needed. You have every right to make him research anything, and there is zero reason for anyone to oppose this. That said, he can't be counted on to actually do the research. He'll probably blow it off. So you'll have to take the matter into your own hand. Force him to sit and listen as you give the lesson yourself. If he finds that embarrassing, then he has no one but himself to blame for not just doing the research sooner. What are you doing for your daughter though? Sympathy is not the same as medical treatment. NTA. He hasn't changed his behavior after being asked to, and is choosing to disrespect her, despite seeing for himself that she's in pain. A normal punishment on its own probably won't work, as he'll likely feel it's unjust educating him. We'll hopefully put a stop to it so he goes into adulthood with a bit more respect for what some women go through. There are way too many men who scoff at just standard period pain, let alone endometriosis. NTA. There are so many stories on this subreddit about men who don't understand simple periods. Never mind gynecological conditions. Don't let your son grow up to be one of those men. If he's showing signs of ignorance and a lack of compassion now, you definitely have to nip that in the bud. So good job for making him do the research. He needs to understand your daughter isn't groaning for attention, but because she's in actual pain. I do hope she is able to get good treatment for her condition. NTA. Your husband and son oughta. NTA. Your son needs to learn to not be so dismissive of something he knows nothing about. Any chance your friend has the ability to do the contraction simulations that have gone viral? You undoubtedly could tone it down a bit to period, endo-level cramps. He'd probably have a change heart after experiencing that. NTA. That is a very appropriate punishment. It's not punitive. It is directly related to the problem, and it's designed to address the root of the behavior. These are all the things I look for in appropriate discipline. He's shown that he can't or won't correct this himself, which means it's time for you to intervene. If he actually starts to get it and learn empathy, excellent. If he just views it as torturously boring and decides to stop invalidating his sister's pain to avoid doing it again, that'll work too.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.